Good day, everyone. I'm Pauletta Francis, primary educator at Saltus Grammar School and host of the first ever ProLearners Exchange interview at the National Educators Institute here at Bermuda College. The National Educators Institute is a future-forward hub for Bermuda's dynamic difference makers. The NEI wants to hear about and share the powerful professional learning and networking experiences of Bermuda's educators. We begin this inspirational journey today with Alandra Swan, a stellar early childhood education professional. But before I bring Alandra onto the stage, I'd like to introduce you to two resources referenced in our interview today. The first is the Standards for Professional Learning by Learning Forward, an international professional learning association. The standards for professional learning are the criteria that the NEI uses when designing and thinking about adult learning. They describe the conditions, the content, and the processes for professional learning that leads to high quality teaching and learning for our educators. Scotland's professional learning planning cycle is another tool to support educators through their professional learning process, from thinking about its design to sharing the new learning or skill with colleagues. The learning planning cycle is meant to support the professional growth and agency of educators as it prompts them to ask crucial questions about their needs for learning, as well as those of their school, system, and of course, the students themselves. They are really some great tools for our educators to have in their education toolbox, if you will. Are you ready? It's time to meet Alandra. Let's bring her to the stage. Welcome, Alandra.
Thank you so much. Hi, Pauletta.
Hello. It's wonderful to have you here today. Sister, friend, storyteller, artist, music lover, educator, and coach. That's a lot of roles she holds. Alandra seeks to live a life of purpose and passion in whatever capacity she can. She believes in the power of walking in wholeness and wellness in every area of her life. Quite commendable, I would say. In 2009, Alandra entered the teaching field as a certified primary school teacher, and she's taught at various public schools around Bermuda. Most recently, Alandra taught at Francis Patton School, Bermuda's first Leader in Me Lighthouse School, and one of the first education reform parish schools. Along with being a primary one teacher, her many roles include science teacher leader, literacy coordinator, and adjunct professor at Bermuda College, where she works with pre-service teachers. In 2019, she was awarded Outstanding Teacher of the Year through the Bermuda Education Network. And in May, she teamed up with Ben to host Bermuda's first ever Teacher Wellness Retreat for public school educators. Alandra, it is so great to have you here today, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to chat with you about your amazing experience.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it is truly an honor to be on here.
Thank you. Well, we've learned a lot about you from your bio and some of the great things that you've done. Mm-hmm. But please give us an opening introduction to the amazing, and I say amazing twice, three times actually, the amazing professional learning opportunity that you've massively and creatively penned, The Green Connection.
Awesome. So yeah, back in November 2023, my colleague Kim and I, we traveled 23 hours into the future to go to a place called Bali, Indonesia, to the Green School, where we participated in their immersion course, met with colleagues, other colleagues from around the world, staff, students, and really immersed in the learning around what is best practice in cutting edge sustainable education.
Wow. I can't wait to hear more about that. Mm-hmm. We know that professional learning is really important. And so as we're about to walk down the professional learning road, I'm wondering about the inspiration and journey which helped you to plan your experience.
Yes.
So we talk a lot about Scotland's professional learning planning cycle. So let's start there. What would you say you needed to know or learn for difference making in your professional growth and practice that sent you all the way to Bali?
Yeah, two things. The first one was considering with school being in this process of transformation, Francis Patton transitioning into a parish school, essentially understanding what was the trajectory and the direction of where we were going and where did I fit into that as a professional? What were some best practices that I could upscale in this process? So definitely having a vision for where we were going next as a system and also as teachers was really important for me in this planning process.
I'm wondering at this stage of where you were at, what did you know about the Green School program and in what ways did you think it might align with the transformation that's currently happening in Bermuda?
Yeah, so their new vision for learning, and certainly this is all on their new site, speaks to this infinity wheel, and they talk about students becoming more collaborative, relevant, the learning experiences being relevant, entrepreneurial, culturally connected, and empowering. And at the Green School, they literally had some of the very similar facets and features, but just worded a little differently. So they go by real. It has to be, relational. It has to be experiential, has to be authentic, and has to be from local to global. So some of the same wording, some of the same facets were literally like almost toe to toe in terms of the vision for BPSS and also the Green School. So that's where I saw that clearly, that alignment.
I'm imagining that this experience must have been very costly. I mean, you're going all the way to Bali, which is halfway around the world, right?
Yep.
If you don't mind, could you walk us through the steps that you took to secure funding for this amazing trip?
Yeah, so I'm really grateful because we have such a supportive network within the Department of Education, and so right from the bat, I reached out to first of all school community. So being able to get their buy-in around, hey, this is what I'm thinking about, and then partnering with as a charity the Pete Schools PTA because I ended up putting in an application for a grant because as you know, to travel all that way across the world for such a significant period of time does cost. And so thankfully with the support of the PTA helping me with receiving going through the application process, going through the just connecting with the different facets, we were able to secure funding through that. Thank you. Shout out, I should say, to Ms. Kalmar Richards, who I had to meet with, but really, I believe that was Providence in that her support and encouragement really helped to push this forward in that she understood clearly as soon as I said, this is what I'm looking to do between her and my principal, they just understood like, yes, and you need to go. So that process through, grant making, and then also, partnering with PTA and also the department was really how I was able to be able to go.
That's great. That's actually
Mhm.
terrific that the funding was available for you to go.
Absolutely.
You found the funding, you made it happen, which is
Yes.
tenacious of you.
Mhm.
So we've talked about planning your experience. We're going to now delve into the second step of the professional learning cycle, which is
Mm.
engaging in that actual professional learning.
Yes.
So now that you've experienced it, how would you explain to someone the Green School's overall philosophy and their whole approach to education? What is it? What is it? What does it look like?
Yeah. So, what I appreciated more having actually gone was the fact that they, even from before traveling, they talked about this term sustainable education. And we hear sustainable living. We've heard about sustainable, food sources and sustainability in agriculture. But this ideas of sustainable education was really something that I didn't understand until I got there. And really, in a nutshell, it was turning students, even the staff, into thought leaders around solving local and global challenges. And that learning is more than just reading, writing, and mathematicians, but really an opportunity for you to learn that so that you can apply it to the context of bettering your world or leaving your environment that you were in a better place than you were before. And so because it's K through 12, so from pre-kindergarten, because they did have a preschool, from pre-K all the way up to grade 12, you saw within the language of the students to the conversations with staff on site, this narrative of I'm leading as I'm learning in my education for the benefit of solving this issue, partnering locally, being able to use the skills to better either other schools that they partner with or other organizations. And so, it was very profound to me to see how the learning was more than just getting an education, but it was even while there, they were looking to really solve challenges because they understood that there was a future that needed either saving or issues that were needing to be solved right then and there, and even as they left. So just cultivating that right from the beginning all the way through.
That's a really great philosophy and approach to education that they utilize. So we know a philosophy and a teaching and an approach filters onto a teaching method. So is there one teaching method that perhaps caused you to shift your thinking? Perhaps were you like resistant or curious or just surprised? What was one teaching method that you were like, aha, you can see how that clearly trickled on from their approach that they utilize?
Yeah, they were big into project-based learning. Big. So they utilized, and while as they got into high school, there were certain key I want to say subjects and lessons that they needed to concretely learn, but they always had a practical application to a project. And the project always lent itself back to a problem. So in the early years, they started with a lot of local experiences. So giving students the exposure of experiences. And then as they matriculated up, taking those experiences and actually looking at it from the lens of, do we see any issues? How can we improve and make things better? And then as they go on, they begin to say, now, how can we partner to solve issues? And these projects actually dominate pretty much they call them capstones. So you have grade 5 as you transition into middle, and grade 12 as you transition out of the green school. They use these projects to then present almost like a TED Talk. They actually do go for funding. So just like how I went for a grant, they have a foundation where students will go and receive funding. And these projects, teachers will mentor them, work with them, give them the skills they need to basically apply, especially as it gets to that grade 12, where now all of the skills and learning lead to this one capstone project. So that was, I knew it, but it surprised me because it was so deeply embedded, and you could see the thread of how it all came together as the years went by.
I was just thinking that, imagine incorporating something like that with our youngest learners, and they kind of know the pattern of it, and it can grow and get bigger throughout the trajectory of their education. So I think that's an amazing thing. I want to switch gears a little bit, not switch gears so much, but talk a little bit about your amazing article. And I encourage anyone who, if you have not read Alandra's article, it was in the April edition of the NEI newsletter. It's entitled Wall-less Professional Growth, The Green Connection. It's really amazing. It talks about project-based learning. Yes. So the article, like I just said, it talks about sustainability that emerged as an important feature of the green school education. And so locally, we know that Bermuda College implements sustainable practices from things like its aquaponics labs. I didn't know that. I just learned that. Its solar panel expansion, and along with some private and public schools, they embrace practices that led to it being awarded an Eco School Green Flag. That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. From your lens, Alandra, how doable might it be for us in Bermuda to standardize sustainability into our schools, whether perhaps through the curriculum or through learning environments? How doable is that in your opinion?
It's so doable. We live on the most amazingly beautiful island in the world. I'm just going to say it. And then also, our size makes it doable in two ways. First of all, no country on earth has the level of access to resources, technology, and expertise like Bermuda does, in that we are so small. Also, if you consider just Francis Patton alone,
Mm-hmm.
we live so close to nature, to some of the issues that are being raised, like pollution around, in and around the environment that we're in, because we're so close to the water. And so I say all of that to say that for Bermuda, I mean, and I teach in the early years, it is so doable that we are able to do so much for our community because we're so connected and we're so small. And then as far as community partners are concerned, we have access. I mean, the Green School, bless their hearts, they found smaller local communities, but they have to write in to
Mm-hmm.
some certain organizations because some are so big. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
for us, it's just a simple call, it's an email. For some, it could be a parent. And so for us in our classroom, we had a parent that worked for KBB. So we leveraged the partnerships that were already in the room to be able to teach our students about sustainable practices in and out of the classroom through something simple like cleanups. And so they began to see, wait, we have a lot of plastic trash. And that became a focus. But that is something that concretely they learned, which the expectation is that that will continue into the years following. So as a school and as a community and as an island, we are very blessed with the resources, the access, and the knowledge that allows us just to really think nothing more. I mean, even as a kid, for me personally, I knew about KBB. I knew that we put things in the trash
Mm-hmm.
because of KBB coming to the schools at a young age. So very, very doable, very doable.
It is doable, and it's a great thing to know that some of the schools are doing it. You've given an
Absolutely.
example of Francis Patton. I know at Saltus we are also engaged in lots of community efforts with sustainability. So how do we encourage other schools to jump on the bandwagon and even go further than that? Because it definitely is sustainable.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, what I said earlier, was the partnerships, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of, there are sometimes as teachers we think, oh my goodness, not one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth of the matter is that there are so many resources on the island that say, I just want an opportunity to come and talk to your class.
Mm-hmm.
I just want an opportunity to come to your assembly. I just want an opportunity to do a walk with your students. And I think when we take or give teachers an opportunity to see, it's small, it's one thing, it does not have to be. Sustainable education is not
Mm-hmm.
about, and I actually heard this from Choice Era, Miss Richards, who's at BZS. She said, it's not about the big things towards sustainability. It's the small steps that we take. And that's really what it is.
You remind me of a scene. How do you eat an elephant? One piece at a time, right? So it's little
Absolutely.
small steps, like you clearly said.
Absolutely.
So we've talked thus far about the planning and engagement pieces of your professional learning. Let's begin to bring it home here. I'm wondering what the impact of this tremendous learning that you had. According to Learning Forward Standards for Professional Learning, impact is an important consideration in professional growth experience. Scotland's professional learning planning cycle urges our educators to think about the impact of their learning very early on in the process. And that just makes sense to me as an
Yeah.
educator. Just as we consider assessment, yeah, here it is, from the very beginning when designing a lesson for students, we must think about the desired impact of our teaching learning as soon as we contemplate a growth experience. At your initial planning stage, what impact did you anticipate your Bali learning might have? Specifically, I want you to talk about that impact on your thinking, your practice, and of course, your students.
Yeah, so one of the things that I was definitely hoping for, that was totally met when I went, was these authentic experiences. So I talked a lot about project-based learning and problems. And one of the things that really, what I really saw that impressed me in terms of like that undercurrent in my thinking was, how is this real? How is this authentic and tangible and accessible? And I got to see that. And I was so impressed by how students took that authenticity from teachers and from the community and believed it and literally lived it for themselves. So that was definitely a big thing for me. And they operated, students in particular, operated at a high level of understanding around what they were doing was genuinely about to change literally the world, right? And I'm not being facetious about that. That's some of their verbiage was geared towards that. And then in the practice, really getting to a place of understanding that while yes, there are certain areas of learning where we teach in a way that is traditional and standard, but focusing in on giving students exposure around projects, allowing them to touch it, feel it, build it, and experience it in meaningful ways that they will never forget. That was a big piece for me to say, while yes, I've seen you do it, Alandra, I want you to keep pushing that, because that's what's going to sustain students and open their minds and open their thinking to the connections that are needed to reading and writing and math. They're going to have much more opportunities to apply that learning when they have those authentic experiences through projects, through solving problems, through giving them opportunities to think about that. And then, so with my kids, I wanted them to be able to come away or experience having in these experiential learning activities, having more empathy and more understanding around how connected they are to their. So when they come to Francis Patton, it's not just I'm here and then I leave. It's whatever we learn becomes a practice and a lesson for the world around you. And so I expect you to teach your parents or to tell your parents, which I got a lot of feedback around that. Oh, they're telling me, yeah, I'm empowering them to do that. But I wanted that because that to me has much more ramifications. It brings a deeper level of learning than just them hearing it from me or learning it from me.
Absolutely. I have another question, I think, about evidence as well.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say were some evidence points you would need to see in order to determine if the impact of your learning on your practice, your colleagues, and on students? So this is really tangible evidence, like we can see it. What are some evidence points that you could give us?
Yeah, the big one for me was my students and hearing them talk about, oh, are we going out on Jalan today? Are we doing a trash cleanup today? Oh, but did you see how? No, we've got to go pick that up there. And let me back up and say, Jalan is a Balinese term for walkabout. Are we going on walkabout? Are we going to explore? Are we going, hey, look, we found, and one of my students, bless her, he always came with ideas for stories. Hey, we found this tree, we found this plant, let's go write about it. So hearing them begin to talk about and then lead in their learning. So I loved it because yes, we had writing, yes, we had math, but for them it was, but I want to go measure this. I want to go write about this experience that we had. And then when we wrote about it, oh my goodness, the depth of understanding. So we had visited Carter House, we had somebody come and we presented them because again, we wanted them to understand the give back. And so he asked questions about their learning and they had such an in-depth knowledge. It blew the presenters away. It was like, you really, yeah, no, because we're about to go build a house and we need to know how to best build and what materials to use. So hearing that in their language, seeing them build it or experience it through what they were doing with it was really how I saw impact right in front of my eyes in the classroom.
There's no greater evidence than the students right in front of you.
Yeah.
That's amazing. If you had more power than influence, Alandra, what would you want to ultimately occur as a result of your learning?
Two things. Bring a green school Bermuda, get a green, or open up a green school Bermuda. But the other part is, on a more serious note, is really to have a space created where teachers have the opportunity to go on experiences like this. It may not necessarily be my personal experience of going to the green school, although I'm like, please go. If for me, the power lies in empowering other teachers to be able to find opportunities to learn, grow, professional development, and actually providing those means to be able to make it happen. But that and actually opening a green school in Bermuda would be awesome.
That would be great if that could happen. Sharing via professional dialogue is the last step in the professional learning cycle. What are some of the critical discussions you have had with colleagues around your learning? First question. And have they expressed common areas of celebration or perhaps concern?
Yeah, so right from the start, one of the biggest critical discussions was around how do we bring this learning to Bermuda in a sustainable and authentic way, i.e., one of the things that we had seen, my colleague and I, we had talked about it so much, was it's possible for Bermuda to experience and to become, to be at the forefront of this kind of learning, these kinds of learning experiences and providing them to students. How do we scale it up, bring it? And, I think there was a celebration in that we're seeing some of that begin to open, and we're seeing some of that through the partnerships and programs that are happening. I think for us, it was just saying, how do we ensure that that's happening from the time students walk in to the time students leave in a really in-depth way? And so one of the concerns that we had was with our P1s, because, we're early years, we oftentimes struggled sometimes to make those experiences happen, because many of the learning experiences and partnerships that we have start from like primary 3 up. And so they think, oh my goodness, they're 5, really get it. And it's like, yes, they will, just give us a chance. So really trying to find and cultivate and curate those experiences so that they have that exposure and knowledge brings us to that place of like, how do we do this? How do we make it happen? How do we allow our students to experience it? And so that's where I think we had to really just refocus our efforts in saying, okay, well, what can we control? So we have the nature trail right off of the school. We can leverage that as opposed to trying to always go everywhere. So bringing those experiences was a big piece for us, just trying to see that at our respective schools.
And our final question for today, Alandra, is what advice would you give to other educators who are considering professional learning travel to non-traditional venues?
Go for it. Go. Get your team together. I had a master mentor. Shout out to Rizelda. I had a chief encourager. I had PTA staff who worked with me and encouraged me in places where, because I didn't think that this would actually happen, they were like, no, you're going. I had a school community and a principal who was like, I'll answer the questions. I'll take the flack for it, but you've got to go. Reach out, especially for those who are in public education. Reach out to Kamar Richards, reach out to our commissioner. At least give her the opportunity to hear your thoughts. Because when I explained it to her, it was like, I get it, I got it. But you will need a team. You will need people who are in your corner to help you to vet and allow yourself, keeping yourself accountable is very important. But you need those people in your corner to be able to say, no, this is the best choice that you've made for yourself, first and foremost, to go on the professional development journey. But then number 2, to go outside of what is standard or what is normal. So that would probably be my best advice.
Great advice. That's some great advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Alandra, I want to thank you for being here today. You have passionately and eloquently shared about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that took you all the way to Bali, Indonesia. Clearly, you are a lifelong learner who wants the best for all young learners right here in Bermuda. You've developed a fresh vision of teaching and learning, which I'm sure will impact our community for years to come. Again, I say thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
So viewers, I hope that you have gleaned lots of great nuggets from our interview here today. We encourage you to follow us on our varied platforms, our Facebook page, the National Educators Institute at Bermuda College YouTube page, and also on Instagram at National Educators Institute. We look forward to seeing you right here on the next ProLearners Exchange interview. Bye for now.